Hello, and welcome everybody. This is the listening and feedback session for our special 10,000 subscriber weekly challenge number 69. They're not so weekly anymore, they're bi-weekly, but still very exciting to get to this point. Thank you all for your support. I so appreciate that over the years that we've reached 10,000 subs here on the channel. And so for this challenge, I set the theme as being writing a piece that represents your favorite place on earth, or favorite place to be, basically. I shouldn't say on earth. We do have maybe some, or at least one, that doesn't have to do with being on earth. But yes, we had a bunch of submissions, I think 22-ish, something like that. So we're going to listen to them all today. I didn't do a submission, and I'm not going to be doing a submission today. I might do a submission later this week because I do have a favorite place, at least a favorite place in relation to vacations and being somewhere else. I love being here too, at home with my little family here, but I also have a favorite place outside of here. And I have some ideas about what I'd like to do for that, but circumstances just presented themselves such that I didn't have time to do that right now. So perhaps later this week. So today we're going to be listening to all the entries for this challenge, and then we're going to be, I'll be awarding the top three, naming the top three in order prizes, which involve some gift card for Spitfire Audio, a year subscription to PreSonus Sphere, which gives you Studio One and all of PreSonus's other content, and then some one-on-one sessions with myself, which can be used in any way that you might like, whether that's a lesson of some sort or literally just hanging out and talking about music or life or anything, or listening to your own tracks or working on something or whatever. Could be anything. The time is yours. So of these 22, I've already listened to them all and have chosen the top three. I'm going to play them in no particular order. Well, it is a particular order. It's the order in which they're sitting in my folder here, which is basically random. And so you can glean nothing from the order in which I play them. I'll only announce the top three at the end. Nothing else is set in any order. It's just the top three. After each track gets played, I will also give some feedback. And in this case, somewhat more detailed than I normally do, my honest feedback. So please remember, this is just my opinion. Everybody else in the world might disagree with how I feel about it, but this is how I feel about it. So I will state how I feel about the composition, the mixing, and whatever else came to mind at the time. Only for those that wrote feedback on their track, by the way, when you uploaded it. There's only a few there that don't have it, and I will definitely respect that I will not give any kind of critical feedback on those. So every now and then my mic doubles. Yep, I know what that is. I should always, there we go. I should always check the chat, right? Before I just talk for like 10 minutes straight. Okay. Wow, I have so much chatting. So welcome to everybody here who's live with me now. And thank you for everyone for participating. There's too many people, I think, for me to say hello right now. But Chris Pettengill, welcome. I haven't seen you in a while. Nice to see you here. Chris L, haven't seen you in a while. Okay, let's just do that. Hey, I'll just talk to the ones that I don't see very often. Can't watch this because I'm at the mall. Okay. Okay, good. Hello, everybody. So, I think we're all good. I need hype. If you missed the hype era of the channel and you're wondering why I always show this, if you go back and watch the video, the challenge I did on dubstep, it'll all become clear what the hype's about. Okay. Can you hear this? I just have I have a sound on my keyboard in case I need to be like, that note that you played? Old Max, the hype era, the hype saga. Okay. So let's get into it. I'm stoked. There's a lot of, this is extremely diverse group of things. This was like very difficult to choose a top 3. It was more difficult than I would have imagined, being the challenge topic is so open-ended. You could do anything, literally. And yeah, so it's just my feeling on what the top 3 are. You might disagree. That's fine. You'll see what I mean as we go through it. So we're going to begin at the top of just the order that appears in my folder here, which is essentially random, as I said. Hey, Chris. You already disagree. Okay. So first up, and I've got a little thingy here that we can use to, there we go, tell us what's happening. This is Phosphine. Track's called Beach. I'm going to interpret that as the beach is your favorite place. I love the beach too. Let's check it out. That's it. Nice work, Phosphine. So my feeling is I really like the atmosphere here. It really gives a very particular vibe of being at the beach. It is not ever what I would have written for my experience of being at the beach, and I like that about it. I like the beach samples playing in the background, seagulls and such. I don't have too much to say about it. It's so simple and not multiple sections. I can't honestly comment too much on it. What I can say critically is that the whole thing is mono. Not sure if that was your intention, but all the sounds, reverb included, feel to me like hyper-centered. And it's a bit bizarre sounding, especially if I'm thinking about like an atmospheric being at a place. I kind of want like an expansive soundscape. If I'm being critical, I would say more elements, longer composition, but the feel is nice. The overall vibe is nice. So I don't think I have too much else to say about it. It was nice. Thanks, Phosphine. So next up, we have, just give me a second to change the text here. Gem. You spent about 15 minutes on it. Okay, so it makes about that much sense. Next up, we've got Gem with A Glimpse of Summer. By the way, I know I mentioned this already, but I've heard all these already, right? So you don't need to be like scrutinizing my face to be like, oh, is he going to react to that little thing I did there? Because I already heard it all. I know what happens. In fact, I heard them all basically twice. Okay, so here's Gem with A Glimpse of Summer. was beautiful, Jim. It really was. Really enjoyed that. I like the kind of traditional approach you took there. Writing the whole thing chord melody style on the guitar, that's obviously close to my heart. I love doing that. It's one of my favorite types of music. I think you did a very nice traditional melody, traditional harmonization. Your playing was really well done in terms of the finger style and the articulation you used and all that. Yeah, so I really appreciate the composition overall. I really like you rested there in the middle on this like add 11 chord, which you were earlier on doing like a suspension and then letting it go, playing the fourth, then playing the third, playing the fourth, then playing the third. But in the middle, you just like hold them both. I thought that was pretty cool. I found that the beach sound was too loud, a bit distracting for me, honestly. Nice to begin with, but I wish it would have kind of gave more prominence to the guitar a bit. The interaction between the violin and the guitar was a bit iffy for me at times. I couldn't quite tell, and even in fact at first what I was hearing, if it was a guitar or violin, and if I should focus on it or not. I was a little bit like splitting my attention between, is the guitar the focus? Oh, but here comes this thing. Should I be listening to that? And that kept happening to me as I listened. That might be unique to me, but that was my experience of the interaction between those things. So perhaps a more clear delineation of when to listen to each element would have helped me, or at least clear melodic differentiation also could have done the trick. And the violin did feel like it was in a different space to the guitar for me. It gives the sense that it's not really a unified set of two people playing, so to speak. So, that's a kind of a mixing aspect that I noticed. And I don't know, perhaps it is a bit distracting for me anyway. It removes some of the believability or realism that this is a real performance, which is just tough to do with virtual instruments. Other than that, I think that's about it. The distortion was a bit much for me at times. It is a nice tone, but it's a personal preference, obviously. I would have liked a little bit cleaner overall. And I would say in terms of like the creativity or uniqueness, which I was putting forward as a primary criteria, wasn't huge here. Like that's not the point of this composition, is to be incredibly unique. And I realized actually after I made the challenge that making it about, getting you guys to make a song about your favorite place probably doesn't breed super creativity, because sometimes the place is sentimental and you want to do something that is simple and meaningful to you, which means you're not going to perhaps come up with the most creative idea, but still all the same. Yeah, so I think that's it. I thought it was wonderful overall. It's a great job, Jim. Okay, so now we have Colonialist. With Relaxing in the Yard. So he says, my favorite place is in the garden, where I often talk with my lady, play with my dog, have family there, and sitting deep into the night and have so many quiet moments for myself. Beautiful. So here it is, Colonialist, Relaxing in the Yard. Nice one, Colonialist. Super chill. Really like that. As you can see from all the comments, everybody likes it too. Great overall vibe. And I would say that is like the strongest suit of this. It is immediately obvious from the outset, like we're in a chill zone here. And I think you captured that really well. It just feels good. Feels good to listen to. And that's probably the best thing I can say about any composition, is it just feels good in an instinctive way. I think you did a great job layering your instruments. There's actually quite a bit going on there. Let me just play a little bit here if people didn't notice how much like this going on up and down the background. There's like this synths holding, there's the guitar. I don't even know if you can hear me when it's playing. Let's just say that again. This noise is going up and down, there's pads, there's the bass, there's guitar, there's a little melody thing that comes in and out, all the little percussion side to side. So something I sometimes talk about is the building of a world. Like music production is world building, world creation. And I think this exemplifies that in a good way, that it really feels fleshed out. Like there's a real place there that you are. Yep. So I think that a few things to keep in mind, at least from my perspective, are the drum samples felt a bit weak to me, like the actual sounds that were chosen. Now I'm super particular about drum samples. It's something that I've like obsessed with for years. So it's also a personal preference, right? People have different feelings about it, but they felt a bit dull and just not very interesting to me, which in the end, I think like, what's the point of a drum sound? Well, of course it's to give the drum rhythm. That's very important. That's the main thing. But above and beyond that, because any sound can give the drum rhythm, then what purpose do they have? Perhaps to provide their own level of interest and intrigue, so that every time you hear the sound, you want to hear it again, right? That it has something of value within itself. Every snare, every hi-hat, every kick, every tom sound, they should all be kind of satisfying and have some kind of character. That's my opinion on it. So here I felt like it was just a bit flat to me. I have notes, that's why I keep looking down. I can't remember everything if I just listen to it in the moment. I felt the vinyl sound was too loud and a bit distracting, and it actually made me give me a sense of distortion at the beginning, right when the first guitar rang, and it, I felt like, oh, is it clipping? Oh no, it's a vinyl sound. So that was that kind of stuck with me throughout it. The overall mix, I know you're going for like a lo-fi sound, so like not much high frequencies, but still it felt a bit like muddy, low, mid-range, kind of everything felt very samey. All the elements being so muted gives a certain vibe, but also like it's hard to differentiate a bit what's happening. And to me, that's a bit of a detractor. And of course, in the lo-fi vibe, you need some way to keep everything lo-fi, but still we need to find ways to like separate and not build up too much energy in that one range, which is the hardest thing to do about mixing lo-fi. I felt the bass was a bit too loud overall. It's just like, because it's very stereo, that stereo separation in my headphones at least brings the volume up, and I kept like my focus kept going there where there was so much else going on. And I think that probably my number one critique of the track is melodic confusion for me. And this is not unique to this track. This is something I notice in a lot of the tracks we're going to listen to today, and just a lot of the tracks that we get submissions for in general. What I mean by melodic confusion is that two things. One is that multiple melodies play at the same time at times, and it's hard to know what to listen to, which has a certain effect, but it's not one that is particularly my favorite, I would say. I feel like I want to always be clear in an instinctive way without having to think about it. My attention should like be directed, very smoothly between elements. It doesn't always have to be a melody. It can be a melody into a drum fill, into a bass line, into a melody, into a chord stab, into a whatever. But so long as that's clear as to where my attention goes, and I know it's not clear when it becomes, when I have a sensation of it. Like when it is clear, there's no experience of the confusion. It's just like, oh, this. And then as soon as there's a sense of like, I've lost myself, or should I be listening to this, which doesn't appear to me in terms of words, should I be listening to this? but there's a feeling that comes with it, some kind of like, and I got that a few times here, where melodies overlay each other, or I didn't quite know what to listen to. So yeah, that's what I have to say about it. It was a great vibe, though. Thanks, Colonialist. Next up, we've got Demamaki. I know you put your submission in quite late, Demamaki, but I'm gonna play it anyway. I didn't have time to listen to it ahead of time and give any feedback, so I'll just be spontaneous with it. And also, I don't know if you hear Demamaki, but I asked you a question as to how this relates to your favorite place, and I don't think I heard from you. So if you want to post that in the chat, that would be great. So here we go. Demamaki with Crave. This relates to my favorite place because it's a place I haven't been to, but want to visit soon. You mean that is that an actual place, or do you mean this song gives you a feeling of a place like that? That's pretty vague to me. Anyway, the overall thing was great. I really like the vibe. Of course, you're going to get me with the jazz harmony. Obviously, I'm a sucker for all that. I love the strings at the start. Strings at the end felt a bit odd, honestly. Nice harmonic movements. Felt like a bit of a lack of melody throughout it. I like the change in the piano sound, though, from the way the first one felt like a sampled kind of upright piano, and then all of a sudden it becomes wide. So nice kind of like mixing strategy there overall. It was good. It gives me a good vibe. What I would say is I don't have something memorable there that soon after it finishes, there's not much I can hang on to. There isn't something like I immediately remember is like, that song was defined by this. So it's a concept that at least I'm trying to keep in mind when I'm making music, is like the face of the song. What is the face of the song? And you remember a person by their face, right? Mostly. So you recognize them. And perhaps in successive listens, I would be clear on what the face of the song was, but immediately after the experience, I don't have a sense of what it was. It's just an overall nice vibe, but I would have liked something more clear that tells me like, this is this. Something to hang on to. Yeah, it was a beautiful little thing there. So thank you to Demamaki. And yeah, I would say that in regards to creativity and uniqueness in terms of relating to the challenge prompt, the theme, it's so-so. Since you're saying, it's the song gives me a vibe of a place I haven't been to, that sounds to me like the song was made ahead of time and chosen to fit the theme rather than written specifically for a place, which was what the prompt was, right? Selecting a place, bringing that feeling up within you, and then using that feeling as a guide for your selection of everything. That's hopefully the way we do this. Okay, next up, we got DJ Vu with Green Ireland. Okay, here we go. Wow. Nice one, DJ. It's quite the composition. So I would say overall, like the beginning part is obviously extremely in line with the name of your track and the challenge. Great melody, very memorable, great mix. Like, yeah. And then as it goes on, I would say it loses, from my sensibility, the relationship to the beginning. And the further it gets on, the more I feel like I'm in a completely different song, especially by the end, when you're getting these like little chromatic notes coming in and getting this like kind of quirky, odd feeling there at the end. It doesn't anymore to me feel like Green Ireland. Now, I don't know your feeling of Green Ireland, of course, but the beginning was like very obvious that like, okay, we're here and this makes a lot of sense. And then it gets like more epic, and then it just starts to feel like more like almost medieval film music and less Irish stuff. Yeah. So otherwise, I would say that, and I've mentioned this to DJ already, I would need to be able to judge this correctly. I need to know the proportion to which this song is made of loops, pre-made audio loops, versus written in MIDI yourself. And until the time that I can get clarification on that, like, meaning I would need like to actually, if I'm going to give him a prize for this, if that would come to be, I would actually need to see the session. Is because I feel the level of this production is so high, the mixing is so good, the arranging of the orchestral instruments is pretty much unlike I've heard of in our challenges recently, that it's a bit shocking to me, honestly. And if it comes to be that it is all done, by composition, your own composition, then A, my apologies for ever doubting, and B, I will amend whatever my thoughts are at that time. Until that time, I have to reserve judgment, because although, of course, I'm all for people using loops, and I have no issue with that, people can use loops, it needs to be clear, and especially in a contest where people are writing their own music, their own melodies, their own harmonies, all their own ideas against someone who's using loops that are not even just MIDI, perhaps, but are maybe even audio loops that are pre-mixed. This takes a lot of what is difficult about a challenge and simplifies it, right? Of course. So while the track is kind of amazing in certain respects, I need to know that. So I'm sorry if I am misjudging it here, but I need to put that disclaimer out, and so everybody else in the competition here is clear too. But thank you, DJ. Always love your work and appreciate you being here. Okay, next up. Ooh, we got Frio. Frio Ventus, watch the sunset with me. Okay. Here we go, Frio. Nice work, Frio. That was wonderful. Great composition. Very different than I normally hear you work on. So applaud you for taking a unique route there. I thought that the intro was awesome. The outro also awesome. Both were just this kind of magical quality. Nice harmonies, nice melodies, nice production value. Really enjoyed that. There's a few things I want to point out that stuck out to me. I felt like the weakest part of the track was actually the chorus for a few reasons. And primarily it's the use of the vocals in the chorus, where the rest of the song has like discernible words, lyrics, meaningful lyrics. And then in the chorus, we get what is unintelligible to me. It literally sounds like blah, 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 blah. I don't mean that to be just making a joke about it. I mean, literally, that's what it sounds like to me. And so it felt like the whole thing is kind of like building up. And then when we get this biggest part that is the most meaningful part of the song, it lacks meaning. The intro and the outro feel like they have a deep sense of meaning to them. And then this other part felt like, oh, I actually want to get back to the other parts. Honestly, that was my impression of it. As well in the chorus, I'm not quite sure what's happening with the bass. I found it hard to even discern what the pitches are and their relationship to the chords. At times I can hear and at times I can't. I'm not sure if it's just the tone, the side chaining, if they're in the wrong octave. It's a bit hard for me to tell. I'm going to play that part again so you can hear what I mean if you try to listen to the bass.
Feel the view, watch with me. La, 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 la.
You see, it just sounds a bit like I don't even know really what it is. And so in a beat like this, I feel like it's crucial that that is big. I want to hear exactly what those pitches are and how they relate to the chords. That would be one of my main criticisms there about the feel of it, the production of it. And hand in hand with that is the drums. Felt like they need to be bigger. This is like, I want, should just be blasting through the mix. The drum sounds are fine. It's just that they feel like a little bit weak and in the middle, where I wanted them to like push the whole thing forward. So this relationship between the bass and the drums just felt like it wasn't quite sitting where I would like it to be. In combination with that is the vocal thing I mentioned, which just leads to me having the sensation that the chorus was the weakest part where it should be the strongest part. However, the rest of the track, honestly, I really enjoyed. It was great sound choices. The intro sound is like really like it. And then just see if there's anything else I wrote here that I needed to touch on. This is an extremely minor point, but it's very important to me. The very last note of the track feels like it sticks out in a weird way. I'm going to play it so you can see what I mean. That one. The dynamics on it or something just feel like everything is so soft and coming to a close, and then it just like, wah! It just feels a bit weird. Doesn't leave me with the best taste in my mouth. I know that's a very nitpicky point, but like that very last moment of a song, I feel like is so crucial because it will color everything that just happened. So I just wanted to point that out. Overall, really enjoyable, great production value. It's nice work, Frio, as always. Oh, and he had a picture. Here's the picture that goes with it. I'm sorry I didn't show it. Beautiful. Okay, next up we have I Like Music, ILM. ILM, are you here? You don't have feedback written on your track, and I'm not going to give it to you unless you tell me right now that you want it. So here we go. This is I Like Music with Jackrabbit Kennywood. And that's a theme park, apparently. I didn't know that, but Kennywood is apparently a theme park. Here we go. Thank you, ILM. That was great. I'm not going to give you any feedback. Like I said, I know you're probably not here, so maybe you did want it. Sorry. If you do want it, I can write it in the Discord later, but I don't want to give you any if you didn't want it. Welcome, Jim. Hey, Max from Australia. Just want to let you know that you're so elegant with your explanations, almost like quantum physics. Well, thanks, Jim. I appreciate that. I actually did a lot of study of quantum physics back in my earlier days. Discussion for another day, though. Okay. Next up, we have Blood Saved Me with Lost, Then Found. And Blood also wrote something about this that I'm just going to read to you quickly. It says, this song represents how lost I have been a majority of my life and how I never felt at home anywhere. The last half is what I have now, a beautiful family with a child on the way. I put Lavender, my unborn daughter's heartbeat, in the second half of this song. It's beautiful, Blood. Happy to hear that. So Blood doesn't have feedback written on his track, and I'm not going to be giving it. But let's take a listen. Very nice. Thank you, Blood. Appreciate you entering here. As you can see, guys, the range of tracks that we got here is ridiculous. How do you compare these? That was my challenge. Okay, next up we have Stranger. It's called My Cold Room. That's the place. His cold room. If you don't know, Stranger lives in Oman. It's hot. That's what I hear anyway. Never been. Okay. Good. Here we go. Let's check it out, Stranger. That's amazing. Nice work, Stranger. So I had to clarify with Stranger actually about how the song related to the title. Maybe it was obvious to you guys. The cold room is just the very end of it, which is probably obvious. But to me, I was hearing the traffic sounds and stuff at the beginning, and I thought like, okay, that's outside, and then we're inside, and his room is like fucking mad. But then it gets to that, and I thought, well, is your room both? Is it like super chill and just insane? But no, he was saying that the room is the last part. So just so we're all clear on that. Okay, so get to my notes here. I thought it was super unique, very creative. So for that part of the challenge, Stranger, I thought you did a great job of interpreting the challenge. Very kind of storytelling and you know, I'm a big fan of what I would call juicing music. You know, when you're trying to go for a feeling or an emotion, not to play it safe, but to be bold and say, what is the feeling I'm trying to do, and do it, like really do it. You know, I like that in art overall. And I think there's a lot of that in here. Great contrast, feeling super intensity in the, you know, outside part there, the dubsteppy part. The bass part was just badass. Really dug it. Overall, I would say that the dubstep part was maybe a little bit too disjointed for me. That's probably what you're going for, right? Is like this, then that, and this, then that, and this. And it's probably just my normal music sensibility of wanting to hear like when that first bass comes in, whatever it was. Like if it didn't break there and like constantly break, if it was just would have like really captured this quality. Now that's a personal thing, and that's me saying like if I was going to actually make a song out of this, that's what I would do. But in this context, it probably makes sense that you're like breaking it up constantly. Just something that came. So mix wise for this type of music, your snare is pretty good, but the kick feels like it's lacking to me. It needs to be like boom, right? And it feels quite thin, honestly, which I know is a prescribed technique in this kind of music. And, you know, make the kick thin and let the sub in the bass sounds deal with the low end. But I don't think it quite worked here. I feel like when it first drops, it's just lacking a little bit, and that little bit is the sub in the kick, and potentially some more side chaining. The string at the end I thought was very nice, but could have been better if it was either a solo string as opposed to a section. So the reason I say that is that the section is smooth, and it smooths out the kind of individual character of an instrument, right? A violin that has a kind of scratchy, or if maybe it's viola, scratchy, woody, kind of thing going on, and you can hear all of its slides and all that, becomes this smooth, silky thing that, has its place, of course, everywhere. But in this context, I would have wanted to hear clear character. Could have been a violin, could have been a, what's the name of that instrument? Megan plays it. Erhu, Chinese instrument. Some kind of solo instrument, and maybe back it up with the strings or something. Anyway, maybe a nitpicky thing, but I thought like that melody was calling for something more emotive even than what you were able to get out of the string section, though the string section still sounds nice. And at the end, I felt like the piano perhaps was too loud, and I was getting a bit distracted sometimes from hearing the piano and then hearing the string, because the piano is doing this constant moving arpeggio thing. And if it was just either quieter or the tone was more mellow, it would have not caused this melodic distraction. But overall, thought it was great, Stranger. Very unique, very creative, good storytelling, good relationship to the prompt, the theme, and a lot of production going into that, right? A lot of different types of production involved, between orchestral noises like the honking and stuff, the dubstep part, a lot of stuff going on there. So it's a great job. Nice work. Okay, next up, we have someone I think is new. Suryu, I believe you're here. Is this your first entry before? You never done anything here before? Suryu, am I saying your name correctly? There you are. Yep. First entry, okay. So it's called No Place Like. I'm gonna have to assume that means home. We'll see. Here we go. Say it whichever you want. All right. Let's check it out. First entry, Suryu, wonderful. Thank you. Great sound. Again, so unique compared to the rest of the entries. How do you judge this? Thought the intro was great. The sound selection was great. They really, though the sounds have a very similar quality, they do feel distinct, and they really complement each other well, which is this thing I'm kind of trying to put forward all the time about world creation, that the selection of sounds needs to not be so divergent that it breaks the sensation of a unified experience, but not so similar as to be kind of indiscernible. And I think that there's a good blend here, and it creates a really nice vibe. Overall, I think that the vibe, the emotional overall character is the strongest suit of this. It just feels nice to listen to. My opinion is that the sidechain is too intense. Personal thing, but I'm a sidechain fanatic. I sidechain everything all the time in every type of music. It doesn't matter what it is. If there's a piano solo, I'll sidechain the kick. So for me, though, this was too intense. This song is literally dropping to 0, every time, and it's a bit too jarring for my sensibilities. The bass, to me, is in the wrong octave. This is something that if people don't play bass or study bass, I don't know, maybe you do or don't, is a kind of thing to be aware of. I want to point it out here specifically, so just listen to the bass now that I've pointed it out. Right. As the notes. F, E, D, C. So when playing in the key of C, like that, you have the option, right, to either use this, which is like pretty much the lowest usable bass note that you can use in general, this very low C. You use this here, which is fine. That's what a normal bass player would use anyway, because they don't have this note on their bass guitar, for instance, but with the synth, you can do whatever you want. However, these notes, all being up here, is perhaps a stylistic decision, but for a genre like this that is bass heavy, I would have either gone or something to that effect. So at least some of the notes are deep in the true bass octave, like as low as they can get before it becomes muddy. So for instance, the F, E, D could have been low and the C be high. Could have been a nice contrast, leaping like that, or they're all low or whatever. It's just something I notice. As well on the bass sound, I don't know what it is, but there's some perhaps phasing issue where it loses energy at times, like it feels thick, but then it suddenly like disappears and I almost can't hear the bass for a couple of beats, and then it kind of comes back again. Not quite sure what's going on there. Otherwise, a clear melody would have been my preference. I feel like the song is begging for it, and it almost sounds like a backing track waiting for a singer. Of course, you could say the arpeggios are melodies. Of course, they are in a certain sense. But like I've mentioned with the previous track, I end the song with nothing to hold on to. It doesn't have a face. It has everything else, but the face feels amorphous. And like I have a hard time saying, you know that song that goes, you know? It doesn't have something clear that I can grasp and unifies all the elements together. Something to consider. And the building up to the second section there was a bit of a letdown to me. Like you add another element, another arpeggio element that comes in, but that would have been a great time to have some melodic element, or to have, if it's not going to be a melodic element, in order to make up for that, it's got to be something more drastic. Like way more percussion, and the bass gets fatter, and you get the arpeggio, and you get a pad. Like if you're not going to do something that is going to directly drive my attention when you have communicated that this is leading to a point, and the point comes and not enough appears at the point, there's like an instinctive feeling of like, let down a little bit, right? So I think right there could have been a statement made. And that statement can even be made by dropping the drums and bass out for a couple bars, bring the new thing in, and then dropping the drums back in, whatever it happens to be. Again, maybe a personal opinion on that, but that's my sensation of it. Okay, that was great, sir. Thank you. Next up we have Perfunctory. called A Great Place. I asked him about what is a great place? What does that mean? He talked about a trip to Italy, if I remember correctly, as a child. And that was the inspiration for the track. So you can keep that in mind. Correct me if I'm wrong, Perfunctory. Maybe you didn't say Italy. I can't remember. Maybe you didn't say any of that. Here we go. Very nice, Perfunctory. Really like it. I think Perfunctory is a really good example in much of what he does of what I'm trying to get across with this world building idea. It's the whole track has a very fleshed out quality to it. It has a feeling of really being a thing, being a place in a way. And there's so much going on that you would not even notice at first blush. And I want to point out one particular thing. If you listen, if you have headphones on, in your left ear, there's a little kind of like crackly. Some kind of like bit crushed thing. That's a great example. Majority of listeners, especially listeners who are not music producers, are not going to even know that that's there. But without it being there, the world is less of what it is, right? And there's this particular kind of sensitivity that's required in the world building that is music production to know how to add elements and of what type that will be unique and subtle, but still add to the depth of the world. The idea here is that in real life, as we are anywhere, there isn't just the thing that we're focusing on. There's myriad other sounds in successive layers of volume and successive layers of frequency that as you let your hearing expand and really listen into what's present, you notice there's so much going on. And everybody knows that experience of like, you know, if it were all to suddenly drop out or even one element were to drop out, you had the fridge on for like half an hour and all of a sudden it stops and you go, oh, that's so nice, right? Though you would never think at the moment, especially after some time, oh, I'm hearing a fridge right now. That experience needs to be part of music production such that when you're building this world, you're incorporating these layers of subtlety that are producing an overall feeling that the average listener is not even going to tune into and say, but without it, it doesn't support what is the focus of their attention. A little divergent there from critiquing the song, but anyway, something I wanted to talk about. Overall, I thought the piece was very nice. I like the creative drum beat there, the first one, not doing like I would have done. I like how you took a different approach. It a little bit sticks out of the mix, I find, like the way that it's kind of really bright and the sounds don't quite sit for me. Really nice chord changes as always. By the end, it felt to me, honestly, like it was a bit too stream of consciousness-y though. like not enough repetition. It just kept changing and kept changing and kept changing. And I couldn't like get a grasp on like a definable part, so to speak. The first part, the intro is beautiful. The first part comes in also beautiful. And then over time, it gets more to this ever moving forward thing. Perhaps that's a choice he made, but it was something that I don't know, didn't quite sit right with me. The changed triplets was cool, but I maybe would have preferred it to just loop the previous part. Personal decision. I don't know if sometimes I'm critical about the idea of what I would call cool music and I don't know, beautiful music or whatever. Like there's a lot of music out there that is cool, and then there is stuff that is just what is right for the song. And I'm absolutely guilty of doing things that are just cool for cool's sake. And I don't know, in my opinion, this is a little bit on that side, even though it is very cool. Yep. And my number one critique, as always, what am I going to say? Perfunctory, you know what I'm going to say? Melody. This song, if it had a strong melody come in after that intro part, would have done the trick, let me tell you. And you were right there, too, with this piano thing. Where is it? Want that to keep going. I can't get there, but if that became like a clear melody once that next part came in, man, be off to the races. Okay, good. And I want a quick mention on this too. I don't know if this applies to perfunctory or if it applies to other people in the chat, but it's a common thing, so I want to bring it up. Many people have an aversion to melody because it is the face of the track, and in a way it is daunting to write a melody, and you're going to stand behind the melody and say, here it is, right? Here's the thing you're focusing on. In a way, it's safer to just create layers, of beautiful, interesting, cool things that are happening and rely on that. But it leaves this quality, like I've mentioned several times here, of not being, there's nothing to hold on to, there's nothing to unify the other elements together. And people may rebel against that and say, you don't need a melody. That's fine. In my experience, I prefer it when there is even a simple one that someone stands behind and says, like, this is it. Listen to this, you know? And it's tough because melody is one of those really subjective things. How do you write a good melody? Don't know. Even though I got a whole course on it, I'm not sure I actually know how to do it. Anyway, wanted to mention that. Okay, next up we have Naragon. Are you here, Naragon? With F and Fluk. That's my German for you. I don't know what it means. So if you want to tell me, oh, Jonah, right, of course. If you want to tell me, you know, anything about what this place is, that'll probably help us understand the track. But here we go. Let's check it out. That was dope. I'm a sucker for this kind of groove. I call it slugging. I get that from the gospel music world. That's how they call it. Everything, or drunken drumming, as people call it. Don't like the term. Or the lo-fi groove, people would say. You got a good sense of that, for sure. And the way the bass plays with the drums, really well done there. Overall, I think it gives the vibe. If I'm understanding based on the picture you showed of a kind of like dingy looking place in your description here, that makes a bit of sense now. I was a bit confused at first. Overall, I think the vibe is great, and you've hit that pretty well. That, yeah, like you say, quintuplet groove, septuplet groove will do it too. The glitch drum work, of course, is a big feature of the track. My opinion is it's too much, too often, to the point where it loses meaning. At first, it's immediately like, wow, this is cool. And then it becomes too constant and feels like it is just always there. And in order for it to have its own identity and the meaning that it does, it needs to go away and come back. It needs to have something that is not it to make it feel good again. That's my sense of it. The similar note to what I've mentioned in the past here, the interaction between the bass and the melody creates a confusing sound. I'm at one moment attracted to try to follow a coherence of this upper melody, and then the bass goes, and I say, what's this? And I get distracted. My mind gets split like this. Happened quite a bit in the track. So perhaps leaving the bass fills for moments when the melody is clearly finalized. The melody has spoken a statement and the statement is done, and my brain can I'm done with that now. And then we get this thing going in, and then this thing comes back again, right? That flow of attention. Thought the mix was nice. Drum sounds are nice, although I felt the snare was a bit dispersed, and it might be because you used too much stereo widening. I'm not quite sure what you did with it, but it lacked a bit of its body. It gets this I don't know how you even call it, hollow quality, let's say. Personal preference. Yeah. Bass was quite loud to the point where I thought the bass is the melody until the melody starts playing. And then again, similar to what I was saying before, kind of confusion happens. And in general, I would say there's just a sense of it being too much all the time. It's busy, very busy feeling with all the crinkling stuff and whatever. And perhaps it could have been helped just even with, at some point, coming in with just one clear, straight rhythmic element to ground it and give me a way to focus, and then it would so maybe a bit too janky at times. But the overall feeling is great. I'm a sucker for that stuff, and I think you really did it well. So nice work. Next up, we got David, Pale Skinny Swede. Oops. Your song is the opposite. It is the opposite indeed. David wrote a little thing about it. He wrote too much for me to read here, but I'll say that my last name, Lilia, is the Swedish word for the flower lily. In Latin, it's Lilium, and my place to visit is my garden, which is where I heal and re-energize, hence Sanctum. So it's called Lilium Sanctum. Basically, he visited a garden with his kids, and he found a kind of, I don't know what you would even call it a garden, with an instrument in it, and he sampled the instrument on his iPhone, and then he used that in the track as the main melody. It's kind of bell-like instrument. The rest is stuff that plays into how I feel about it, but it's too much for me to read right now. But suffice it to say, it's nice. Okay, David, let's check it out. beautiful. Of course. Great soundscape and atmosphere, great world building. There's a sense, just like in the real world, that no matter how much you look, you're going to find more. There's more in every direction, every corner you look to, right? There's a little thing happening. It's very detailed, but not in a way that feels very detailed, only when you start to look for it, which I love that quality. Nice melody, nice chords. Really like the vibe overall. I would say the bass sound at times was distracting to me with the boom quality of it. Probably personal preference. I could have gone for it just being slightly softer attacks. Something about the rhythm of it and the way it lined up with the melody bells somehow threw me a bit out of the Zen state. I'm just attracted to it, maybe in a way. But yeah, you did a great job with that bell sound. I mean, it literally sounded like it came out of Omnisphere or something. It's pretty surprising that you recorded it on an iPhone. Very cool. Mix was great as always. The relationship to the prompt, to the theme, makes total sense. Of course, relaxing garden, re-energizing Zen kind of vibe. In that sense, it is what it is. It also feels like it lacks a bit of creativity or uniqueness. It sounds a bit like a lot of this kind of music, meditation type music, of which I've made a bunch in the past. So I know how that goes. But what am I to say? That's the feeling you have about the garden. So I can't be like, you should have done it way more creative, dude. But that's kind of what I'm saying also, is that based on the challenge, is there other ways to represent the same thing? Don't know. It's the feeling you got, and I think it's a beautiful composition. It's well done, feels very nice, and yeah, I would say that that's generally my main critique: the bass and the kind of originality quality of it. But wonderful stuff, David. I honestly don't have too much else to say about it. It's well done. Okay, now we have Schrodinger's cat. Are you here? Schrodinger? Why didn't that copy properly? Go. I don't think you've ever submitted something. Isn't that right? Schrodinger's cat is here and not here. Yeah. So anyway, he's not here. First entry though. Let's check it out. It's called Donuts and Coffee.
If there's no more room, please don't come through. There will be another ship for you. Donuts and coffee for while you wait. Please relax at our departure gate. They'll come for you, yeah, they always do. As you wait, look to the sky. There you'll find the moon shines bright. You will never breathe the air again. You'll never feel your toes in the sand. You'll never walk hand in hand down the road. You will not ever.
Whew. Nice work, Schrodinger, for a first entry. What are you talking about? Holy moly. I don't think we ever received something like that as a submission so far. Great songwriting. Thought it was wonderful. Great harmonic choices. You got it, all sorts of, you know, inversions and secondary dominance and all sorts of fun stuff in there. I love the change you have to that minor chord in the end there. Probably, I don't know, it's not the highlight of the track for me, but I'm going to shout it out once more because it is just really nice choice. Yeah, love that. Very clever. I feel like you've got a musical theater background. Correct me if I'm wrong. You can tell me on Discord if you're not here. It really screams having listened to a lot of that in your past. I'd be interested to hear if that's not the case. Yeah, well played, well sung, great voice, very clever lyrics. I had to ask him about its relationship to the theme as to what play he's talking about. He's kind of talking, it's kind of abstract way of interpreting the theme, but also about going to the moon, leaving things behind, the things that make this place great, and so on. Yeah. So let me see where my notes are here. I'm just speaking off the cuff at the moment. You'll be able to listen to it, Bar, on the Sonic Sorcery SoundCloud. It'll get uploaded there later today. I will just share that in the chat now so you have it in case you're not part of the Discord. All challenge entries that have ever been created are there. There is currently 870 of them. Okay, so yeah, I think overall, like, really enjoyed it. Great composition, great lyrics, nice feel, the voice, the harmonies, the whole thing was very nice. The one area where I felt like I wanted more is in the production side of it. You were very light in your use of, like, say, the orchestral elements and the building of the energy and whatever, and that's probably a personal decision. However, I do think you could have juiced that some more. For instance, in the build-up to the bump-a-dump part, like, I just want this to...
You'll never feel your toes in the sand. You will not, you'll never walk hand in hand down the road. You will not, you will not, you will not ever.
Like, you reach the crescendo with the strings and stuff, but it just feels a little bit underwhelming. Like, your voice is just going for it and the harmonies are building. I wish the whole thing was just like swelling into some massive thing so that when you drop to, you know, then it would really like have this strong contrast, giving even more meaning to that next part. That being said, the elements you did put in there were great. I'm glad that you didn't just keep it straight piano and voice the whole time, but just my personal preference would have liked a little bit more production in it. Overall, it was great stuff. Thank you. Next up, we have Shamkra with The Straight. The straight as in like a body of water, not as in the straight line. Hey, Q. Okay, good to know. Very nice, Shamkra. I think that marks 3 songs with sequels in them today so far, possibly 4. Very nice, like dark, moody quality to that. It actually makes me curious about your experience of the place. When I think about what you described, the Strait, I wouldn't have expected to hear something like that, honestly. I like the overall vibe it gives. I felt like the string voicings in the beginning are a bit bland and plain. I'll just tell you what I mean. These. All of this just like fifths. I felt like there could have been more movement there if you're like hitting ninths and coming back, more thirds, and all sorts of little things could be moving within those string voicings to like add to the sort of moodiness of the thing. Really appreciated that you used 2 interesting time signatures. I think it was 7/4 and 6/8 with the drum fill connecting them. That was very cool. Lack of melody, as I've probably mentioned several times now. I think this really could have, you have at the start there, but as it gets into the main section, would have been nice to have something a bit stronger or more clear. And then the build up, there's these like massive toms or taiko drums or whatever they are coming up in the back there. Again, like this if you're making that decision, like I'm now going to build this track up, it's going to be big, then let's make that decision. Let's add more and like push that so that when you drop it out, it has a greater contrast, a greater meaning. It felt like you were hinting at the idea, but it didn't quite like achieve a full realization of that quality, whatever that would be. Damage, right? Yeah. That's what that sounded like. So yeah, overall, I think it was a very nice vibe, but it just needs more fleshing out, maybe even more instruments. The strings was too much reverb for me. They felt very sunk back compared to the drums that were very close, and they didn't feel unified in some way. So that could have been helped by adding more instruments that fill in the distance between the strings and the drums. You can have them be so distinct so long as other things also are connecting them. When there's not enough that connects the 2 placements in space, so to speak, it feels to my sensibility as 2 separate things are happening. I think that's it. It was overall a great vibe. Nice work, Shamkar. Very different, I feel like, from what you normally do. I don't think I ever heard you do something like that before. So interesting that you took that approach. Okay, next up, we have a few more here. So next up we have Chris Russell. I forget what your name in Discord is, Chris, but anyway, you're here. And it's called Skyline Drive. Funny enough, I used to live on Skyline Drive. Where do you live, Chris? We did something similar in the game score. Yeah, right. It's a place in your hometown where as kids we would look down from the mountains at our city night, planning our dreams. That's nice. Okay. Santa Barbara. Okay, different Skyline Drive. Here we go. That was great, Chris. That's your first entry too, I think, right? So get the claps. Nice work. I really like the guitar work, as everybody here already said. Nice harmony, nice melody, very clear melody, something to stand behind. Layers of guitars and the kind of like almost harpsichord-like sound at the top. You also had, I think, unless I'm hearing things from outside my window, subtle ambient Foley sounds of like birds and things. Is that actually in the track, or am I hearing that outside the room? It was a nice layering overall. Layers of sound there felt really good. Yeah, it was very enjoyable. Yeah, you did have it okay. There was some issues where at times the bass and the chords were clashing. I'll try to pinpoint it for you if I can. It's before this, I think. This. Like you're continuing to hit 1 5 1 5, but the chords over top of them, over that in that moment, are not sitting right with those bass notes to my ear anyway, and it creates this kind of muddy, confused quality. This quality of bass notes not correctly matching chords is a very specific sound. It can vary in a lot of different ways, from like literally being completely wrong, such as like, I don't know. That's not what you're doing, of course. But there are other times when it can just be not like this. It's not like the worst thing ever, but it just feels confusing and not clear. It loses strength and clarity. So that's what I heard here, is that mismatch. The mix is okay. It seems like it's I don't even know how to describe it, kind of like muddy in the low end and a bit empty with the drums. I'm not quite sure. Did you play the drums like with your fingers or like physically? Are they recorded? I honestly can't tell. I'm curious about that. And the biggest thing to me, I would say, though, is the rhythm. The rhythm is not tight between all the parts, between the finger picking, the playing, the drums, the bass. And in a way, it works against the quality of the groove, because even though the song is not a groove-based song, of course, it still has a groove of a sort. And it's a big pet peeve of mine when things don't gel rhythmically, and recording guitar is particularly tough. You know, you got to be really on it to get with either the click track or the drums and get everything in time. I struggle with it myself all the time. Yeah, so that's it, though. I think it was a great job, Chris, especially for a first entry. Really impressive. Nice work. This reminds me, Frio, I'm sorry I didn't mention this at the time, but in your track, you have the vocals come in the intro, and they are ahead of the beat just ever so slightly, constantly. And that gives me this feeling of like anticipated lurching over and over again. I don't know why that just came to me now, but I remember noting it down, and I didn't mention it when we listened to it, but something to take a look at. Literally, if you just took the vocal and just shifted it over a little bit, it would just sit way better. Okay, next up we have Soul Dude. And it's called Be Still, My Soul Dude. It's of the hymn Be Still, My Soul. And so he didn't write the tune, but he's done a version of it, representing sitting at his piano. And yeah, so let's check it out, Soul Dude. That was nice. Beautiful stuff, Soul Dude. Really like that. I'm not going to comment on the compositions so much. I mean, I like your arrangement there in terms of like how you harmonize with the sus chords and things, and was nicely played. The whole thing has a very peaceful kind of beautiful, serene feel to it with the waves and everything involved. I think the waves are probably a little bit too loud in my opinion, and too much low frequencies. And it creates, in combination with this piano sound being very roomy in terms of its reverb, and the cello being there and the waves, you get this muddy, low, mid-range quality that becomes hard to discern exactly what I'm hearing. The instruments don't have a clear spatial separation so that I can like really focus on the differences between them. I found like it just gets a bit confused there due to the mixing, you could say. The way the strings are done, honestly, to me, feels a bit heavy-handed. They feel too strong. I'm going to give you an example of what I mean here at the start. So it just feels like there's some kind of mismatch between how hard the cello is playing, how loud it is, and how the piano is playing at the same time. It doesn't quite have, to my opinion, in my sensibility, the correct dynamics in the cello. It feels too strong for the kind of beauty of the song. As well, the mimicking or the unison of the cello with the piano melody being separated by an octave like that muddies a bit of the voicings, I think. The piano voicings are living in the same place where the cello melody is, but the piano melody, which is the same, is on top, an octave higher. So again, I get this bit of a split of attention. Should I be listening to the cello? Is it a supportive element or is it the melody? Because the piano melody is even higher, and it too is the melody. So that caught my attention. As the song goes on, the other strings come in and they start to diverge and play different things, which I think works much better. It gives a much more clear sense of their uniqueness, individuality, and the instruments become more intelligible because of it. Yeah, so I think that's all I've got to say about it. It's a very nice piece, and I think you did a great job with it. Sorry, you guys are starving. I know it's taking a while. We have 3 songs left. So 3 songs, and then I'm going to name the winners, so if that works for you. Okay, next up we have Bit Start with Summer Breaths. Okay, here we go, Bit Start.
Just ran away, hoping to achieve all these thoughts to sing. But can you feel the melody? Yet I'll believe though my mind filled with strife. Hold to hope, my words breathe to life, breathe to life. Oh, teach me now to sing and hope now to cling.
Nice one, Bit Start. That was great. I love that you write your own songs on piano and vocals and everything ahead of time and then do it all in production after. It's a very unique way of going about this, and it's on display here. Great that you get your violin in there as well. think the piano and the electronic sounds really create a nice coherent feel here. However, I think that the violin, honestly, is not working with the track. Not that your playing is poor or that your notes are not working or anything, but the fact that the violin has such a clear, loud room sound baked into the recording. The microphone is picking up the room, and the other elements are so dry. The drums, the synths, the voice, everything is like literally, if you got rid of the violin, the song would be like right here. And the violin sounds like it's over here. And to me, honestly, it makes it hard to focus on the song when I'm listening to it because I've some sensation of being in two places at once. As I listen to the violin, I feel like I'm in a spacious place, and then this is like right in my face, and it creates this disconnect somehow that I don't even really have the right words for. But that's the primary thing that I notice, my critique with it when I listen to it is that quality. I like the way you capture your sense of the challenge theme, and the lyrics you wrote I think is very appropriate for it. Worked out really well. The AI voices I think are too flat, not enough dynamics and movement, swelling, breathing, softness, in and outness. It just kind of felt a bit static most of the time. So I wonder, I don't know how they're controlled or how you deal with those things, but it's something to perhaps think about as you work with them. What else do I have here? So, oh yes. So you're asking how do I fix that? Okay, so to fix the violin problem, you will probably need to do, I don't know what your setup is like, but you would either have to really dampen the reflections in your room with sound absorbers on the walls and things so that when you say clap, like you can hear in my room right now, it's quite reverberant, even though I have a ton of sound absorbers in here. My room is huge. You need to somehow damp all of that so that you get the driest sound possible. Either that or you record in another place, like perhaps in a closet or something that's much more dry. That has its own problems too, but it's a tough thing to blend hyper dry electronic sounds with the violin. You could fix it in a reverse way by making the electronic sounds roomy. It would lose a bit of the nice, clear, upfront feeling, of course, that electronic sounds bring. But yeah, that's two ways of solving the same problem. It's a mismatch in reverb, basically. Okay, the other thing I wanted to address with this is the drums and bass. So a couple things to note here. The song, I honestly think the song would be served better by a more constant repeating drum pattern. It changes a lot in the song, and there is one particular way in which it changes that is throwing off the song, in my opinion. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. Near the start, the song is like you can feel where the beat is, and then you drop the kick and start playing the kick on off beats, and it gets this feeling like, oh, this is the beat, because the kick being constant, we're so used to hearing that pulsing on the beat. When it switches to the off beat, suddenly I feel like I don't know what happened. First time I heard it, I was very confused. You like skipped a beat and you stay in this off beat for quite some time until you flip it back again onto the on beat. And again, the feeling of having to reorient happens. So I'm going to try to point it out.
I go now as I pick up my pen, a story to write, but clouds block my sight. Oh, a break
There.
from work and a break
Now it's on the
from
off
life.
beat.
Yet here I sit, what meaning can I write? Can I write? I just ran away,
Now it's back on.
hoping to achieve all these thoughts to sing.
See what I mean?
But can you feel the melody?
That for me is a groove breaker, and it takes me out of the whole thing. So if nothing else, I would at least try to remedy that. The other thing with the drums is they're very, very small, and they feel like they're just tucked in a little corner here. And I don't mean you should get some massive big drums. but the kinds of beats that are being played and the way that they are drawing attention to themselves by changing all the time and all this gives me the sense that they should be more present. If they were to remain small as they are, it would be fine if they were more constant and became something in the background in a way. But because they constantly draw attention to themselves by little kind of drum fills in a way and switching the beat up with different placements of the snare all the time and all that, the mismatch between their size and the rest of the song becomes more obvious to me. Hand in hand with that is the bass. I know we talked about this on another call. I think you were on a call with me at some point on the speakeasy in there, and we talked about bass. And the interaction between the drums and the bass is definitely very important. And here I feel like the bass is even hard for me to just discern what it is doing. And its interaction with the drums, again, because the drums change so much, is hard to create a constant groove. So if the song had more of a constant something like this, and the bass was or something like this, and that was generally constant, I think the whole song would gain a lot of coherence, honestly. More present in volume or reverb. Are you talking about the drums? Sorry, I missed what you'd be talking about there. Yeah, the drums feel small because of their sound selection and their volume, basically. So anyway, it's mixing electronic drums is a whole art in itself, and of course takes a lot of practice to get to being good at it. So a lot of it is having nice samples to begin with. I don't think the samples are that bad in this case, but if the kick drum had a bit more thump, was a bit louder, if everything was a bit louder, honestly, and maybe had a bit of a reverb on the snare just to like fill out some space, it might work out a bit. But it's hard to say. I would need to experiment a bit and try different things, as is often the case. But it was great. Thank you, BitStart. Next up, we have Darmolian. So we have 2 tracks left. Darmolian is next. And this is Where Creativity Strikes. That's a good place. That's where I want to live. Okay, Darmolian. Nice one. Like that. Great groove. I know you've been working on groove. You mentioned that a while ago, and I think you've actually moved into it now. This right off the top, immediately as soon as that thing starts going, it's like, ooh, this feels good. The drum sound selection is nice. The bass tone is nice. I like that you've got a little bespoke intro. I'm such a sucker for that stuff. This feels good. Beyond that, my critiques are they're primarily all the same, and there's different dimensions of the same thing, and it's something that you could say is the sameness of everything. The melody is kind of in the same range as I don't know what you want to call it counter melody. You have the bass, and then you have this which is not the melody. I thought it was at first, but then comes in this other sound. All the sounds are very similar, and they're all in nearly the same range of the keyboard. and it creates a very like unified, I don't, honestly not in the best way, a like samey quality where I can't discern the unique individual qualities anymore, and it becomes a kind of like jumble where the groove almost gets lost because the unique rhythm of the bass becomes merged with the other rhythms that are happening in that sort of low end of the piano. Honestly, I think that if you took those other elements, except for the bass and drums, and changed their octaves and changed their sound, the piece would immediately be twice as good. It's something about this very low, mid-rangey quality feels dull in a way, feels dull, where the composition itself is not dull and the groove is nice. But as the layers start to build up and the pad comes in too, and it's also very round and soft, it's all just too much of the same for me. The only things that really cut through are like the claps and the hi-hats, and that gets a particular sound, but I think that you could, at least the melody could go octave up in a different sound than the one you've chosen there. I don't know if you made the sounds. Did you make the sounds on synths, or were they presets? I wonder. Overall, it's the masking of the groove that is really where the problem lies, because the groove is the strongest suit of this track, and when it gets masked, the enjoyment of the track gets masked. It in the end produces a song that feels safe. That's the quality I give to it. It doesn't feel to me bold in some way, or like, really putting something forward that is strong. It feels like restrained and safe, and because all the sounds are similar, it's dark and whatever. So the fact that you made the sounds makes a lot of sense. These are, relatively speaking, simple sounds, which I know you're not an expert in synth sound creation, you're just getting into it. So that's where I would start, is the beginning of creating more interesting timbres that are not like, for instance, just saw waves with filters on them and things, but like more complex tones that are in different octaves. The song will immediately become more expansive. What you've got here is good. It just, whatever you want to call it, orchestration and arrangement is what needs the work. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. No, that's it. Honestly, I would like to hear the song with those changes, if you agree with them, if you want to post it at some point again in the Discord, because I think there's a lot of potential with it. It just, something of that sort, I think, should happen. I like it though. Nice work. Okay, now we got Shep. This is our last one for today. My stomach's growling too. Wow. Okay, Shep, you don't have feedback written on your thing, Shep. So unless you tell me otherwise now, I'm not going to give you any feedback. It's called Whisper of New Orleans. Nice one, Shep. Definitely going for the New Orleans vibe in a very direct way. Very clear. I've never been there, of course. I just hear about what it's like and I see it in documentaries and movies. But of course, we get the sense of it from that. It was well done. I like the intro a lot. It starts off really strong. Like immediately feels good. Like this. The ride bell. Yeah, I want to go someday. Agreed. Now, how many times do I talk about drums, man? Like, you have a good drum beat, the song is like instantly everyone's like, oh, damn. Like, watch what happens when this drum comes in. With the bass, the The drums are loud in front of the mix, like clear. There's a secret there. There's a secret there about any groove-based music that has drums in it. You want that thing to be like in your face. One of my favorite mixing engineers, whose name is escaping me right now. Anyway, so many times when I would hear pop tunes that have great mixes, I look it up and it's this dude. And he's like, I'm always mix my drums first. Drums have to be perfect, feeling right, groovy, loud, powerful, whatever they need to be before anything else happens, before the vocal, before anything. And everything comes after that in a pyramid around the drums. He says, even if I mix a pure piano track, I mix the drums first. That tells you what you need to know. So, that it's not Chris Lord-Alge, no, it's Luca Prestoli or something like that. I can't remember his name. Anyway, this exemplifies that, right? As soon as that thing comes in, it's like, damn. Okay, so, but from there, I wish it remained that way, but in my opinion, it doesn't. It loses it right afterwards. Now we switch to here, and the groove to me dissolves. When it goes to that side stick like that, the bass starts moving around a bit more, and the piano starts getting this just chant, 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 which honestly is in my opinion too heavy-handed. It's not subtle or sophisticated enough for the style. So if you guys know the term comping, we would call this comping on the piano. It's short for accompanying, comping. When you're comping behind soloists in a jazz style, usually there's a rhythmic sophistication, right, that goes on. There's not just, though they may at times hit right on the beat, it's more like there's kind of like shots that come in and out that gives a syncopation with the drums, especially when the drums are just so like rock beat like this 4/4 time thing. Honestly, I think that this slamming on the keys detracts from what this groove could have been. And in the bass as well. Something happens there at that moment. If that first groove just kept going, like we would have been in it the whole time. That's my feeling. Secondly, sometimes the bass notes are not matching the chords. Like when you're doing the turnaround later, you hit like a 5 chord and stuff. The bass isn't quite tracking them somehow. And like I mentioned earlier, you get this kind of strange sensation. Also, this thing I keep repeating myself on, the lack of a clear melody. I don't come away from the song being able to hum anything or knowing its face or its identity. There's just kind of these solo lines, right, that are happening a little bit in the piano, a little bit in the saxophone, and it gives a vibe of, but it doesn't feel like a song. It feels like this is a jam session. And no one is really like taking charge to say like, psh, here is, as they would say in jazz, the head, meaning the melody, the main melody of the song. So I think you've got all the right elements here. It just needs like coherence to be like drums come in and then clear melody. Piano starts like comping in a more rhythmic way. Leave the low end of the piano out, right? Leave that for the bass. You just want to be playing the chords in the center or upper range of the piano. And then the bass is going to take care of the low end. That's going to do it. If you just do that and then you follow your same structure, then you've got a banger. And the scream at the end. You know I'm a sucker for screams. Anyone that watches the channel. But this is like a blood-curdling scream. This isn't like I'm stoked on this music. This is like I'm about to die. Right? Like they just saw a murderer or something. I just thought it was funny. Anyway, that's it. That's all the submissions. Thank you, everybody. We got that done in basically like 2 hours. Great feedback. You had your wallet stolen. What? That's the scream you had when you had your wallet stolen? So yeah, 2 hours, we got through all the tracks. What a wide variety of tracks, right? Like, what do? How do you judge that? Well, I did it. I picked 3. No idea what you think are gonna be the 3. I wonder what you guys think are your top 3. So to remind you, my criteria was to do with creativity and uniqueness, composition, production quality. Okay, so it's about like how the challenge was interpreted, the strength of the composition itself in its melodies, harmonies, rhythms, storytelling, all of that, its unique take, and then the production quality, of course, matters to me. This is what my channel is basically all about: music theory, composition, and music production stuff. So, yeah. Let's see what we got. I'm going to go 3rd place, 2nd place, 1st place, and we're going to listen to each person's track as we go. Okay. So, in 3rd place, I should have actually like recorded a drum roll, right? In 3rd place, we have Perfunctory. Perfunctory with A Great Place. I really liked what you did, Perfunctory, honestly. Great atmosphere, very unique take on it. Like, you probably would have been 1st place if it had like a strong melody and a bit less of like I said, the stream of consciousness constantly changing thing. But let's listen to it again here. Yep. Yeah, I really like Hyperfunctory. It's got a great sense of place and space, a great atmosphere. The world building, as I mentioned, is on point. It really feels good to me overall. It feels like a coherent world where all the sounds make sense together. My only complaints there is like the strength of the composition overall. It's kind of like self-similarity and whatever. Perhaps could have been stronger. But it's great. Okay. Now, second and first. Choosing these top 3 was honestly very difficult overall to even decide which were going to be the top 3 and then how to structure them. Even more difficult was choosing between number 1 and number 2 because they are so different from each other. They nearly could not be further apart on the spectrum, and I don't even know how to compare these two. So take what I have chosen here as second and first with a grain of salt, because honestly I went back and forth saying this, no, this, no, this, no, this. And in the end, I'll explain why I made the decision that I did. But second place is going to be one of the noobs, clearly not a noob, Schrodinger's cat with donuts and coffee. So this is the one with the piano, with the vocals, storytelling, the orchestral elements in it. I just really love the song. I thought it was just really well written, super creative, a nice take on the lyrics, on the idea, on the theme. Really just kind of shockingly well done. So here it is again.
If there's no more room, please don't come through. There will be another ship for you. Donuts and coffee for while you wait. Please relax at our departure gate. They'll come for you, yeah, they always do. As you wait, look to the sky. Bright. You will never breathe the air again. You'll never feel your toes in the sand. You'll never walk hand in hand down the road. You will not ever.
Yep. Wow. Even now, as I hear it again, I'm like, first place? I don't know. I had to make a decision. Made a decision. So, nice work, Schrodinger. Really appreciate you entering the challenge there, having a really unique take on it. Like I say, very curious if you have a musical theater background. Sure sounds like it. Obviously, you've got a background in singing and playing piano and whatever. I've heard a couple of your tracks before related to some orchestral type things that you did. So yeah, it was great. Okay, number one. Who do you think? I wonder what you guys think. So I chose this one, number one, because of its creativity, uniqueness, relationship to the theme and its storytelling elements that it got across, as well as basically what I was going back and forth on, and what eventually made the decision for me is the reliance on, or not the reliance on, but the use of production elements, because of course my channel is heavy on production and I'm heavy on production. And I know that that's a bias, but hey, I'm a human, I have a bias, right? I have to choose based on my own sensibilities. And like I mentioned, the one criticism I had of Schrodinger's was, I wish it was juiced more in the production side of things. He perhaps doesn't want that, I don't know, I do. So, what we got for first place. I should make a drum sound, shouldn't I? You're right. It's Stranger. Okay, Stranger, let's hear it again. Love it, Stranger. It's great. Like I say, the top things being the uniqueness and the storytelling there. I think you got it across so many different production elements, different parts of the song. But like I say, it was essentially impossible for me to choose between those two. I like them both so much, but I have to choose something. So, my bias towards electronic music and using production and everything probably is what got me into that last choice. Also, I want to say, Stranger, your evolution in your music throughout the time you've been part of the Discord has been amazing to see. It's really improved a great deal since the first time you busted on the scene as one of the OGs in the Discord. So happy to hear this. Happy to have you be here and have first place in this challenge. But Schrodinger, please think nothing of it. Honestly, tomorrow it would have been in roles reversed. What can I say about it? It's just what felt like it today. So yeah, okay. Thanks everybody. That was a lot of fun. I'm so happy you all entered and stuck around to see how it went. For the winners, I will get in touch with you about the prizes. Yeah. I'd like to do another one of these maybe in another month or two, like a more serious, like full-on challenge with prizes. It's pretty fun, actually. I kind of like it. I would have liked to do something myself too, like I said, didn't have the time this week, and so maybe I'm gonna be away for a few days here, but then when I get back, perhaps I'll do one as well and see how it goes. Do more of those, don't care about the prizes. You missed the feedback section. Okay, so yeah, the feedback section was fun. As you can see, it takes me a lot of time, and that's the issue. The issue is that I can't make a song and have a feedback section. Even in doing the written feedback, as I used to do in the Discord, it takes me a long time. I want to be serious about the way that I listen to the songs and hear them multiple times and consider each element and give you something of value back, at least in the way that I see it. So perhaps in the future we'll have a solution for how to give feedback. But yeah, it's is what it is. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thanks for hanging out, for sticking around the whole time. I know it was long, and thanks to everybody again for participating. We'll have a new challenge soon. I don't think I will be posting one tomorrow. Literally hadn't even thought about it. And I'm going away for a few days, so perhaps we will have one the following week instead. The feedback can be the prize. Hey, there you go. Okay, thanks everybody. Appreciate you. I'll see you in the Discord, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.